Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for being here tonight, for joining us for another one of our virtual meetings. It's been almost a year now of these meetings, so we really appreciate everyone coming in tonight. We'll get started here. I just uploaded a copy to chat of our agenda and the treasurer's reports, so if you'd like to follow along, those are in chat and you can download them. I will also share a copy here on the screen as we go through tonight. And we'll get started here. If this is the first time you're joining us for one of our virtual meetings, we just ask that everyone stay muted unless you're asking a question or presenting. During the periods where we do ask questions, please use the hand raise feature and I'll make sure to call on you so that everyone does have an opportunity to speak. Otherwise, we will get started and I'll turn it over to Eric for the treasurer's report.
Thanks, Jess. So we'll start on the balance sheet. I think that's, yeah, there we go. Okay, perfect. So as of the end of January, we had about $5,500 in checking, just a hair over 20,000 still in savings, and then petty cash remains at $859. I would point out here the one notable item would be the scholarship fund. So we did finally disperse one of the scholarships that we had awarded from last year. With COVID, it took us a while to get those dispersed. So that scholarship fund did go down in half, and we're working with the other recipient to be able to return or disperse the remaining funds there for them. Moving over to the income statement. So notable here, several things. We are in the middle of a kind of the annual membership drive for the year, so seeing good activity in the month with a little over $500 in membership renewals, a little bit of t-shirts. The negative amount there in the other income is related to interest income, so I had not adjusted for the rate decreases over this last year, so I trued up our savings account interest there after the Fed had been dropping the rate. So that's what that amount is. And then into the expenses, normal utilities, etc. The notable item here in the marketing was for some advertising that we did with the summer fun days. So we had some things printed for flyers and posters and the sandwich board signs, etc. For the summer fun days. So that when we did the yoga in the park and then the food trucks, etc. So that's what that is related to. And then the grant expense is for that one scholarship fund that we dispersed. So that is the treasurer's reports. Any questions? Okay. Thanks, Jess. Am I doing?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and Eric, just jump to the audit committee. I'll come back for membership renewal.
Okay. Yeah, this just to let everybody know that we did have some volunteers. So thank you to Matt and Lena who have volunteered to be on the audit committee for this year. So we're going to schedule some time this month to meet. We sent over our information to the committee. They'll take a look at it. We'll meet, we'll review, we'll answer any questions, and then the committee will bring back their report to the membership next month with what they, kind of a brief summary of what they looked at and what they found, and if there's any improvements for us for next year. So thanks in advance to Matt and Lena. It's not the most exciting committee to be a part of, but it's still needed and appreciated nonetheless. So thank you.
Awesome. Yes, thank you to both of you. That is huge, and we really appreciate you. Just a quick reminder, if you were a member last year in 2020, I'm sure you've already received my email reminder, but again, in order to maintain your voting rights, you need to renew your membership by the last day of this month, so the 28th of February. That will ensure that your renewal is instant and that you don't have any lag in voting. If you were to sign up again after that date, you would then go through the 21-day waiting period again for voting that new members go through. So just a reminder to get those memberships renewed. Also, for both renewals and for new members, if you sign up for a membership before the end of this month, you will get a coupon code for 21% off in our MVA shop. We have t-shirts, can koozies, both tall cans and regular size. We have our plastic mugs that you see at the festival, and we have our tote bags. So you'll get a discount code to shop in our store and show your Merion Village pride. Other than that, we'll move on. A quick reminder that we are still looking for a new secretary. If you are interested in filling the secretary role on the board, you can go to our website and nominate yourself or another member, assuming they'd like to do it. Once we have a nominee, or nominees, we will announce them at the subsequent monthly meeting and then vote upon anyone who has been nominated to add them onto the board. So very eager to get that role filled. Would appreciate anyone who wants to step up and help with that very important role. And I do say very important because it is one of the most important roles on the board. So we we appreciate everyone who has served in that role in the past and anyone who's interested in serving in the future.
And you get to work with a really fun group of us.
Right.
And I would say nominate people even if they're not willing to serve, because we're very good at influencing and twisting arms. So if you think someone would be good at it, go ahead and nominate them anyways. We'll take care of the rest.
I think there's a few people here tonight who have maybe been nominated or voluntold in the past. So
yeah,
it works out. It works
love
out.
that. And I see several of you taking notes and stuff during the meeting, so I might be nominating you as well. So just saying.
Thank you so much. So this is actually going to be kind of a conversation we'd like to have with everyone. We'd like to get some general feedback. As I mentioned, we've been holding these meetings virtually since May of last year. When the pandemic really started to go into an upswing, we did end up having to cancel our meeting in April, and then starting in May, we began hosting virtually through Zoom. So for those of you who maybe never attended a meeting before and have only attended virtually, we'd love to hear from you. Would you have attended meetings if they were not virtual? Would you prefer that they be in person? For those of you who used to attend in person and are now also attending virtually, we want to hear tonight from everyone. What are your thoughts? What does it look like for us someday in the future when we have a choice to go back to in-person meetings? And what are your opinions? We know some folks who have young children at home have had an opportunity to attend virtually where maybe they couldn't before if we were in person. So I'm going to open up the floor. Allison, I see your hand is raised, so you will go first.
Got in there quick, have that quick trigger finger. I just want to say that I enjoy having them online. As much as I do love coming and seeing everyone in person, maybe there's like an every other kind of deal or something like that. But I do think if there's a way to keep it, even if it's in person, online, because I know there are days where I can't get there, and so I'm glad that I can at least listen in. But thank you for throwing that out there to get everyone's input.
Yeah, thank you as well. And this is obviously not a conversation that will just happen tonight. We may follow up with a survey to get more input from folks who couldn't attend, but we want to hear from you guys and maybe think about things we haven't thought about. So Mark Huckabee.
Hey guys, I absolutely agree with Allison. So regardless of what happens in the future, whether the group goes back to live, hybrid, or whatever, regardless, I believe that there should still be a Zoom WebEx kind of component. It increases accessibility to the citizens, right, to our neighborhood. It increases interactions with you guys, and it makes it more participant in general, I think. And as some y'all have said that, even for me, sometimes I cannot get to the live meeting. I just can't do it. My schedules don't allow it. However, I can pretty much hop on wherever I'm at. And if I get home late, I can still hop on in time to start the virtual. So I vote for virtual regardless. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Mark. Ann Stewart?
Hi, everybody. I would concur that I think both platforms are beneficial. I also would like to just speak for those folks that don't, maybe aren't technology savvy, et cetera, so that possibly there would always be a way that they could come and participate in a meeting. I think and let me just add, the fact that I am human, and it's good to see people and be there for real. So I think a hybrid model would be great.
Thanks so much, Anne. Lauren?
Hi. Yeah, I agree with the hybrid. My hope would be in the future that the MVA social committee could be a lot more active, and that would be a really good tool for seeing people in person to kind of supplement or Zoom calls that we do.
That's a great point. Thank you. Christian, you had your hand up, and I think it went down. Just wanted to verify.
Oh, sorry. I don't have to hit it twice, but I just wanted to agree. I think the online capabilities are great, but you know, I also think having the in-person is really helpful too. So I don't know what that looks like in the future, if there's the ability to have an online component while an in-person session's going on, but that certainly seems like the best of both.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone. Is there anyone that maybe doesn't have their hand up but has a thought? I think we have at least one person who's calling in. I just want to make sure if anyone else has anything they'd like to offer or share. Okay. Oh,
Hey,
wait.
Jess, the one quick thought I had was with trying to do the both component, it does sometimes get a little bit hard to have the interaction from the virtual side. So, you know, if everyone's in a room, you know, you've got a little laptop sitting in the corner tweeting away, or, you know, you're not going to hear that in that room. So you may be able to record and show, but it may be difficult to actively get feedback, you know, in a combined setting. Sometimes it's hard to get that actual virtual component to speak through, right? Because it's so much more, I guess just the in-person is going to overwhelm generally in public meetings. Just a thought.
I could definitely see that. In fact, honestly, as I hear from everyone and we kind of talk about maybe a hybrid model, I almost wonder if an appropriate approach might be to come at it from the opposite direction, where the primary meeting is still held virtually. Presentations can be virtual. You know, if we have zoning items, we've certainly been able to see people share those items on the screen, which has been very helpful. And perhaps the in-person element could be secondary for those who do prefer to be in person, would you know, essentially be watching the presentations on the screen, but could also interact. We certainly have a representative. So that's definitely a thought, but I think that this feedback is really important, really helpful, and it will help us to structure. Certainly if we do a survey and get feedback from folks, again, not that we even have the opportunity to meet in person, but I think we want to be really prepared and know which direction we want to at least try to go when that is an option. So anyone else have any items they'd like to add before we move on to the next agenda item? Okay, great. Thank you all so much. That was fantastic discussion. I look forward to hearing how it goes in the future. So kind of on the same line, a little different. As many of you know, we do have a physical location, the Mva Info Center. It's at 1330 South 4th Street, so just across the street from Bake Me Happy. And traditionally, that's where our monthly meetings would be held. There'd also be various committee meetings held there. Sometimes we would have open houses during other events in the neighborhood. And more recently, we had opened the space up to members to use the space free of charge so that they could host their meetings or small events. There were a couple of baby showers there. A large luncheon was held, and then others also would rent the space if they were not members of the association. So it helped to pay for some of the associated costs when we could rent it out, or it gave us another opportunity to offer benefits to members for being a member in the association. Obviously, it's been almost a year now since we were able to use the space, so it's primarily serving as storage for our many, many items that we use for events and meetings over the year. But of course, it does incur expenses. I will let Eric speak to exactly what those expenses are each month, but that's another conversation we'd like to get started with everyone and hear from you on thoughts about what the future of the Info Center could be. One thing we will note is the space that we do have, we know that if we do decide to give it up and go in favor of maybe a storage unit or something similar, that we will very, very likely never find another space in our neighborhood for the same affordable cost. So that's something we want everyone to keep in mind as we talk about this. But Eric, could you jump in quickly with the costs, and then we'll open the floor and want to hear from everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So our monthly cost is around, hold on, let me get it pulled up, is around $580. So that's $500 a month in rent, flat fee. And then for utilities, we run around $30 on electricity and about $30-ish on gas. Both of those, I would caveat, is that's with us not being in there. So obviously when we use it, those would both go up. And then we have a $30 security fee that we also pay. So that's really what our monthly costs are. It comes out to, you know, around $7,000 and change a year. So just wanted to, you know, it does add up. We've been really fortunate and blessed, I think, over the last couple of years to not have to really worry about that. But we have been running at a loss for the last couple of years also, you know, mostly driven from, you know, having to incur those expenses. So just wanted to make sure everyone's well aware of that as we had those conversations. I do agree with Jess. I don't think we would be able to ever find something to replace what we have at the price point we do. So it's just something else to think about. You know, once it's gone, it's probably will always be gone, most likely.
Thank you, Eric. So does anyone have any thoughts on that? Any questions about the Info Center, or general opinions about maybe, you know, which direction we start to look as we move toward still not being, you know, in person for events? Of course, we would, if we decided to no longer rent the Info Center, we would need to replace it with a storage unit. We've done some investigations on what the costs of that might be based on the amount of items we have to store. It looks like it'd be around $300 a month for that. We would also need a PO box for our mail. I admittedly do not know the cost of that, but we'll certainly investigate it. So eliminating the Info Center does not eliminate all costs, but it would certainly reduce them. So anyone have any thoughts they'd like to share? Terry, go right ahead.
Hi, post office box would be $106 a year for a small size.
Thank you, Terry.
And I think the space would be good to use for other committee meetings. If we didn't have the space, then those committees would have to find places to hold their meetings too. So for a couple $100 difference, yeah, it makes sense maybe to at least hold on to it for a while, because you won't get anything close to that price again.
Thank you, Terry. Anne?
This subject has been brought up, I think, at least a couple of times previously, and it seems that the consensus usually is to hold on to the space, and I think that possibly with some more marketing of the space for small groups that are together, you could recoup your losses in the expenses of the Info Center. And then I also think it just adds to the visibility and people's learning about what the association is and its offering just by its sheer visibility in the community when they're walking through that corridor, et cetera. So my vote would be to hold on to it, especially at the bargain that we're getting. And when the conversations were about going to a storage unit or somebody's basement, or, you know, all the different things that have been discussed previously, the finances weren't as they are today. And I would say financially, the association is in much, much, much better shape than it has been in many of the years in past. So I feel like it's not really something that, I mean, yes, you always want to be fiscally responsible, but I don't think it's dire straits that we would need to have that discussion as far as giving that up at this time.
Thank you, Anne. I hadn't even thought to mention the visibility, but you're right, that is certainly huge. And That's a really great point, so thank you. All right, I have 3 hands raised. So first, Christian.
Anne basically said everything I was going to, so I'll just second that. But I think those are all really great points, and yeah, I think maybe that's something we can work on, is just kind of marketing it a little bit more to get a little bit more use out of it, even if it's just 3 or 4 times a year, and then maybe making better use of the visibility, of what we put in the windows, maybe for advertising events, etc. So all really good points.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Allison?
I again was going to agree with the previous 3 speakers, and I just wanted to add too that it's a tough year to make a decision to let go of the space, I think, and it doesn't seem like the costs are going to vary much different from having no space, and I think that the social committee had some really great ideas to use the space for the neighbors, and so I would just like to see again, us hold on to it and really see some of those things, the potential that it has to come together.
Very good points. Thank you very much. Lauren?
I tend to agree with what everybody's saying. I guess the only point I wanted to make is that we were trying to, we had quite a few 6 months or more where we were trying to market it before COVID hit, and we had maybe 2 or 3 showers that were there. Really weren't making much money off of that. So it is something, unless we can really get people to use it more, I don't know that it will ever be a massive source of income in that sense to offset the cost. So that's just something to think about.
Hey, and this is Mike with Lauren. Sorry to jump in. Just wanted to point out too that renting it out also is a decent amount of work for the board or whoever is doing that. So just something to throw in there.
Very good points. Thank you both. Okay, another great discussion. Before we move on, does anyone else have anything they'd like to add?
I had two things. So I just want to let everyone know, in good, fiduciary conscience, like I wanted to make sure that we brought this discussion back, considering the challenging year that we've had over the last, since COVID, obviously. The other thing to point out too is we haven't probably maximized our business memberships as much with the increased events that we've had, like with the garden tour and the festival. Both have really taken off, pre-COVID the last couple of years. So I think there's probably some opportunity there. But again, just want to make sure, I don't think there's a strong position on the board either way. I'm going to kind of sort of speak for the board a little bit on this position, but we wanted in good conscience to make sure that we at least brought it back up for discussion and got some input from the membership. I do think probably with some smart fiscal decisions and, on the other side of COVID, that we can probably break even. The year before COVID, we actually were in a fairly good spot. So just want to make sure that I just ended it, with some other points of view there.
Thanks, Eric. And Allison, I see your hands raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to say really quick, our membership is not anywhere close to the people that we have in the neighborhood, and we all know that, and we've known it for years. So I think I'm happy to see so many new faces on here tonight, or even in the last 6 months, really, or a year. So I think really what it comes down to is getting our, each other to tell their neighbors, tell their neighbor to tell the neighbor. And if everybody does that, bring up the membership, it'll be easier to have a discussion about the $7,000 that we're spending on the info center, which will then, roll into more people knowing about it, more people renting it, stuff like that. So, don't forget to tell your neighbor.
Thanks, Allison. I see a couple of things here in chat, so I just want to address those quickly. Mark, you asked what the fee model is for renting it. It's been a while since I looked at this, but I'm pretty sure that it is $15 an hour for non-members with a minimum of 2 hours for rental space. So I'll double check that just to be sure as we move on to the next item, but I believe that's correct. And then again, for members, the space is completely free for use, regardless of how often they need the space or anything. So that's kind of the current fee model. Nikki, you asked a question about previously there was a business. Yes, so there was a sublease for a local business in the space. However, that is not something that currently is allowed with the agreement we have with the landlord. So maybe that's something we could look at in the future. Of course, if that were the case, then the space wouldn't be available to the community, which has been one of our big goals, is to make a space that is available and accessible for the community, for meetings, for events, things like that. So that's something I think we'd have to decide on and balance if we wanted to look at converting it. But ideally, and you know, in a perfect world, we really did want to see the space used for the community. And I guess the real point that I think we've all kind of made tonight that we want to think about as we can move forward out of the pandemic is how do we get the space to be used more by people? How do we make sure people are aware of it, know they can use it? And then to Mike's point, how do we make that work as far as you know, managing the space as well? Because yes, as Mike mentioned, we are a board of volunteers, and there are certainly some things that need to be done in between events, making sure things are secured and you know, not broken. So lots of things to consider, but we're always open to feedback and would like to continue to hear from everyone on this topic. I will say, Anne, I see your hand up, so I'd like to get you before we move on.
Yeah, just another idea that I thought about, keeping in mind that the board does have a role in, you know, opening the space, et cetera, or possibly, you know, a volunteer that could be, you know, willing to do that. Another thought I had was what seems to be the trend are shared workspaces. So sometimes people are just looking for, you know, a couple of 2 hours a week or whatever to, you know, do their books or whatever it is that they do in their small businesses, et cetera. So that's another option, I think, that could be a usage for that space when the association is not using it.
That's a great idea. Thank you, Anne. Okay, fantastic. Anyone else? Final comments before we move on? Okay, this topic will certainly come back up. This will not be the last time we discuss it. So if you do have ideas, if you want to send us any emails, mva@merionvillage.org. Otherwise, we'll certainly continue to talk about this as the coming months go on. Okay, let's move on here to our next item. Is Mike here? I think Mike out. Yes, Mike is here. Okay, so I'll just give a quick introduction, then I'm going to let Mike talk about this for a bit. If you're on Facebook, you've probably seen that we recently sponsored a fundraiser to raise funds to create recess bags for the children at Southwood Elementary who are coming back to in-person learning. So we were given this opportunity and invited to help with this. And Mike, do you want to talk a bit about it?
Sure. Thank you, Jess. Good evening, everybody. For everybody who doesn't know me, I'm Mike Alcock. I am the at-large, one of the hats I wear is as at-large commissioner for the Southside Area Commission. Also the board chair for Southside Stay, which does advocacy on behalf of and works closely with many of the Southside neighborhood public schools. And I'm sure as everybody's aware, or hopefully aware, Columbus City Schools did return this week to an in-person hybrid learning model. All the information about that is currently available on their website. So if you're interested kind of in the details there, I would strongly encourage you to check that out at ccsoh.us. Two of the schools in the South High School pathway, which is kind of the pathway that Stay works with the most, are in Merion Village, and Southwood is one of them. Back in October, the school kind of reached out to their network of friends and supporters, and when they were originally planning or mulling a return to hybrid learning, and asked for support for the recess bags. And so Stay, with a generous donation from one of the local VFWs, was able to put together about 40 bags for them. And then it turned out, you know, of course, we know now that didn't happen until this week. So a couple weeks ago, they did another call out, and we did the fundraiser. Jess, I think it kicked off last Wednesday. We set a fundraising goal of $1,800 to come up with funds for about a price point of $5, $6, $7 a bag for about 200 bags, 220 bags, I think, to start. After 48 hours, that fundraiser hit its goal, and I think today is the last day, and it's over $2,000. So we were able to purchase all the bags that the school needed for actually about $1,500. Based on some of the other donations that they had come in, that number got a little bit smaller. So we were able to purchase $200 200 bags worth of all kinds of great stuff. Jump ropes, bubbles, just all kinds of fun stuff, toy cars. And the neat thing about how that'll work, obviously with COVID, during recess, especially during the winter, they may not be able to go outside. Kids obviously won't be able to be near each other, so they'll all need something, during recess to stay active. And so they'll get an individual bag that they will use just themselves, and it'll be safe and clean and personalized. So that will be, we purchased everything. I will be delivering that along with another volunteer to the school tomorrow morning. And yeah, we've got about, Eric, I'm going to kind of let you take the lead on this, but we've got about $500, give or take, left over potentially for some additional items for recess bags if the school needs that. Or if they can help us identify, another target for some of those funds. We're kind of waiting to hear back from them. So Jess, I think that's everything, but feel free to add anything in if I missed anything.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, and I know you are, like you said, you're waiting to hear back from the principal to see, where else those funds could help, whether it's more recess bags or other items. On that note, I did put into chat the link to the Facebook fundraiser. So if you'd like to make a donation to that effort and to, whatever those additional funds are used for at Southwood, they will be used at Southwood. The fundraiser does close today. So today is the last opportunity to do that. Otherwise, just personally, I was just really excited about this fundraiser. Like Mike said, we posted it, and in less than 48 hours, we not only met, but exceeded the goal. So that was pretty incredible to see the community kind of rally around and say, what can we do to make this experience as positive as we can for these kids that are coming back after a year of craziness. So really, really cool, really excited. And I was just really happy to see it.
And I do want to mention too, just on that note, that the principal and the folks I've spoken with at the school are just absolutely over the moon. I mean, they are not just excited about the fact that they're going to be getting all of these bags together. And of course, as leave it to teachers, they said they'll pack all the bags. They're just looking for the stuff to put in them, right? So only a teacher, but they are extremely excited about the community support from everybody who contributed to that fundraiser and is bringing this joy to their students. So I wanted to mention too, this particular fundraiser actually kicked off and inspired a couple others within the district. So kudos to Merion Village for helping spread that around a little bit. That's really neat.
Mike, we also have to thank you. Mike brought this idea to us, and one of the things we've really struggled with over the last several years is, as an association, how we can really get engaged with our schools here in the neighborhood and how we can support them. And that can sometimes be challenging because they have a lot going on, even when there isn't a pandemic. So having that link, Mike, and you bringing this to us and giving us this opportunity to help sponsor a fundraiser was just really awesome. We really appreciate it. So thank you.
Hey, Jess, since Mike mentioned too, we're going to have some unused funds until we're able to identify, where to direct those. Unless there's any objection, or we can vote on it if anyone wants to, but I'll create an education fund where we can put those unused monies from the fundraiser. And then as stuff comes from the teachers or the principal at South Village, we can disperse out of that so we can keep that separated unless anyone objects. I think that's probably a great way that we can track that.
It's a great idea. Okay, fantastic. Mike, hang around because our next item here is actually going to be our 2021 Southside Scholarship, and Mike's got some involvement in that as well. So if you've been around for a bit, you know that each year we like to hold a chili cook-off, typically in February or March, to raise funds for the Southside Scholarship, which we launched a few years ago. The scholarship seeks to provide a scholarship of at least $1,000 to at least one student graduating from South High School who also lives here in the Southside community. We did have 2 recipients last year. Eric mentioned them at the beginning of this meeting. And we've just been, really excited to kind of see that effort grow. Since we cannot hold a chili cook-off this year, we will be doing the fundraising for the scholarship virtually. So please look out for that, because we will be launching our fundraisers here very shortly. And oh, you see Mike is holding up one of his winning spoons from a past chili cook-off. So I'm sure everybody, if you've been to those events, they're a lot of fun. So it's definitely a bummer to miss out on them this year. But we are hopeful that we will be able to rally the community in the same way we did for the recess bags for the scholarship. We're really excited about it. We established a committee to help review the scholarship applications last year. So that committee is actually being formed again this year. So far, our representatives, Mike Alcock from Southside Stay, will be serving on the committee. We also have Stacy McWhorter. She is on the South Central Commons Block Watch. I'm not sure if she's considered the chair of the Block Watch. Mike, do you know what her title is?
The last that I checked, she's the vice president, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. If you've ever been involved in anything at South High School, I'm sure you've met Stacy, because she is just as involved as you possibly can be. She's incredible. She served last year, will serve again this year. We also have a Merion Village member, Rhoda Cooper-Schmidt, who will be serving again. Our MVA board member representative is Lauren Larrick, and we will be bringing on someone new this year from I Know I Can, which Mike has offered to help us organize. So that's exciting. Mike, since you served last year, would you like to just tell everyone kind of what that process looked like, or what we're expecting this year?
Yeah, sure. So let's see, last year, I believe we received applications from, and Anne, you'll have to jump in, and Rada, if you're on the call, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we had about 10, 12 students who submitted applications. Is that about right?
Rada is not here,
Okay.
but I can ask her to come up if you like.
No, that's okay.
That's about right, Mike.
That sound about right? Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And yeah, they wrote a personal narrative, described some of their involvement at the school and at the community, talking a little bit about their plans for the future. And we were able to identify two, I think, Eric mentioned earlier in the meeting, two students who ultimately became recipients of that scholarship last year. But it's a really neat thing. I'm very glad that the neighborhood is involved in supporting the local high school in that way. And it's a great way to get students looped in from the school with the association as well. I believe 2 years ago, one of the students was actually a Merion Village, it might have been 3 years ago now, was actually a Merion Village resident. So that was really especially neat to see as well. So it's a great thing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this has been a really, really cool process to see this grow over the last few years, and having this committee work together. And, we actually even partnered when we were doing the chili cook-off last year. Ganther's Place got involved to help us promote. So we're just hoping to see it grow even more, and, sky's the limit. So everyone, if you'll please look out for those fundraisers that are coming up. If you have any feedback or suggestions, please feel free to share that with us. But just really excited for the committee to kick off and see where things go. All right, we'll move into our committee updates. We'll probably only have updates tonight from both beautification and a bit on zoning. Nothing really on membership or social at this time. But for beautification, I'm going to turn the floor over to Christian Hassanfratz, who volunteered last year to take over the chair of that committee, and he's got some information to share tonight.
Hey guys, this is Christian. Basically, I'm going to share my screen real quick if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Great to talk with everyone this evening. I wanted to just kind of put this out there for some volunteer opportunities for the beautification committee. We are looking to get some volunteers to help kick off some different initiatives in the neighborhood. And what I've kind of just showing up on the screen are just a few different options that we're looking at. One is potentially replacing some of the existing planters throughout the neighborhood. They're kind of ending or getting towards the end of their lifespan, and we're looking at replacing them with something a little bit that is a little bit more low maintenance, and something that's also a little bit more fun and reflective of the neighborhood. The current planters are actually hand-me-downs that have been used very well from another neighborhood. So this will kind of be the first opportunity that we get to have something that's actually all our own. Another opportunity would be looking into getting some more tree canopy within the neighborhood. That's something that I know some other neighborhood committees are looking at, such as German Village. We've got, being a more urban neighborhood, we've got a lot of different streets that either don't allow for street trees. So these are just a couple streets near where I am on 4th, and 4th is also one of those where sidewalks go right up to the street, and so there aren't any street trees. So, you know, possibly looking at opportunities to encourage neighbors to get be able to plant some trees in their own yard. You know, and again, these are all opportunities for fundraising and donations. And both of these are kind of long-term goals that we're looking at for improving the neighborhood. And then another one would be potentially looking at increasing some neighborhood murals and establishing a mural program. Last year, with the summer fun days, we were able to get a mural. This one is down off of 4th, and I don't remember what the other cross street is, but I think it's on the Wanderlust Studio. And it's been really great to see that. And so that's something I think that could be really a fun opportunity to have throughout the neighborhood, especially since we are a more urban neighborhood that has a mix of commercial and manufacturing sites throughout that might have opportunities for more murals. And, you know, those could be things that are permanent, or they might be rotating. So just a lot of fun opportunity there. So if you guys are interested in helping with any of that, or maybe have some other ideas of your own, if you want to reach out, the email is beautification@merionvillage.org, and love to hear from you.
Thank you, Christian. Anyone have any questions for Christian, or would you like to volunteer to join the beautification committee? Can't hook anybody that easy. We'll keep trying. Tom Less.
I'll help. So
awesome. You have your first volunteer.
Perfect. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I helped Vassar Village get a bunch of their planners in too. So I have had to go through the process before, and there is actually some like working with the city to make sure that you're maintaining ADA compliant lanes, that you're not sticking a planter and then someone in a wheelchair can't get by, right? So they have some approval process to a little bit of that too that I can help with.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. Anne?
Yeah, regarding the planters, I know so many of them are probably in a status of disrepair. However, I think some of them are still pretty stable, and if we do replace them, one option that we might offer is to our schools that are in the area. I know that when they had the planters, the Parsons planters, when they finished with that grant or whatever happened, probably during that construction, et cetera, they got rid of them and they offered them out, and some of our schools did request them and got them. So this might be another way, because it's a manageable beautification for their spaces too. So I just wanted to put that out there, that might be an option for us to let them yet live on longer.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, to add on to that, you know, if you know, there's some of the planters are, you know, well maintained by neighbors that in, you know, where those planters are. And, you know, I think we would definitely want to look at opening up the opportunity either for people in the neighborhood as well, if they were interested in continuing to maintain those or take those on. We certainly don't want to just get rid of them. And this would also probably be a pretty long-term goal where it would probably be phased over a number of years. So, but that's a really great suggestion, Anne.
Christian, I see in chat you have 2 more volunteers, Chris and Seth.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, guys.
All right, awesome. Anyone else have any questions before we move on to zoning? Okay, thank you so much, Christian.
Thanks.
All right, fantastic. So we don't have any zoning items on the agenda tonight as far as any items to review and vote on, but we do want to talk a little bit about, how things might look going forward with our zoning procedures. But before we do that, just want to open the floor to Lauren Cardoni, our zoning chair. Lauren, is there anything you'd like to touch on for zoning?
Hey, thanks, Jess. I think probably the only thing worth mentioning, and please don't kill the messenger, the Southside Area Commission, I believe, has approved all of the zoning applications that have come through our association over the last few months. It sounds like it's a matter of how they view the zoning code from a very objective perspective. And I know the zoning committee chair has been offering to pull in some of the city planning staff to come and speak with us a little bit about just what their expectations are from a zoning perspective, to maybe help a little bit with that process. So I think that's all I've got. I don't know if Tom wants to chime in on any of that.
Sure. One other quick thing I'll note too is that a lot of those applications get changed after the MVA vote. So it's not the same exact thing that you guys vote on. So you vote, you might vote no on certain things. They change the application as it moves forward in the process. It does not return back to the civic. So what we vote on is not always what you voted on. So if you're looking at a straight one-to-one, that doesn't necessarily mean that we voted, in opposition to the neighborhood. It's more they've made a change to address the neighborhood concern, and then we voted on the changed product. So there's sometimes different. That doesn't mean every time that's the case, but a lot of times that is what happens through the process. And yeah, it is very much a on its merits objective basis. There is a big zoning code overhaul coming, just to be aware of. I did put a couple links early on in the chat. One is on the public safety thing, and I can touch on that on commissioner reports side of things. The other is on the coming zoning change, zoning code update. Our zoning code has not been changed since about 1956. So we are working with a very, very outdated code. Is also why you see a lot more variances currently. The idea here is to fix our code so that we're not giving so many variances, right? But we also need to make sure that what we're asking for is up to date, current, and reasonable. So that, when we get the code update and the code is changed to match. So for instance, like, lot width. There are almost no parcels within the south side of Columbus that meet lot width existing right now. Most of our houses do not meet that requirement. If you do anything to your house, you're going to have to come for a lot width variance. Even if it's been since establishment of the parcel, it's been that width, because we've done an overlay on top of it, an R2F overlay that has basically instituted a zoning requirement that nothing existing meets. So that's one where, why are we having to go through the process of giving a variance for lot width on every single parcel? That doesn't make a lot of sense. So, maybe we need to adjust that zoning code to say in urban areas, the lot width requirement might be 30 feet and not 50 or 60 or 70 feet because nothing meets it. So that's some of the discussion. And then the thing is, once we get some of those out of there, that we're not having to approve all of these existing conditions all the time, we can focus on the variances that really matter, that people really care about, and we're going to vote a whole lot more no's on them because they're not going to be these kind of accessory existing condition kind of issues. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. So that is coming here. I've got a meeting actually tomorrow with the city on this topic. So over the next year, there's going to be a whole lot of public involvement meetings around the updates to the zoning code. If you care about this issue, definitely pay attention to that. Take the survey. There's a feedback piece in the survey of if you want to follow along and get updates on when public meetings are, you can put your email in and they'll send you emails on when those are coming. This is going to be a year-long public involvement process that they're just starting. So a lot of time to give feedback on this topic. From there, they're going to have recommendations to the city, and the city is going to then draft legislation and then come back out for a whole other public involvement round on the draft legislation. So that's kind of how the process is going to go in a nutshell. Any questions?
This is Lauren. I just wanted to point out, we shared that survey on our Facebook page recently. So I just wanted to, anybody who's looking for that link, you can find it there.
Thank you all for that. Okay.
Oh, sorry, Jess. Tom, wondering if maybe the, and I don't know if you were planning to talk about this during the commission update, but some of the zoning related content that you shared for the Safety, Health, Welfare, and Equity Committee, would some of that maybe be useful for, civic members and Merion Village residents to peruse at their leisure, maybe to get a better idea of equity in zoning as well?
Sure. And I actually forwarded that.
Different angle there, but
yeah. So what Mike is talking about, I sent the list to Jess, the training list there too, that might have items of interest. But in particular, what we're going through is looking at, from an equity perspective, from an affordable housing perspective, if you care about those topics, how do we promote that within our zoning code? How do we make sure that we're achieving more equity in housing, achieving more affordable and mixed income? One of the great things about Merion Village to me is our mixed income, diverse, community. And that's something that we want to keep and promote. But zoning really does play into that. So when you have a ton of requirements and extra things that you have to build, that drives up the cost of building anything. And so there's a direct relation between our zoning code and making housing unaffordable and making it so that you're only building high-end units and gentrifying areas because of your extra requirements of how big it has to be, or how much additional parking that you need to have. That kind of thing really does drive up the cost of development, which then directly relates to the cost of the housing. So a lot of that is around historic redlining, how that's affected our areas, and then also how these kinds of concepts all play together in some of the goals that I think hopefully we all share for our neighborhood. I'll get off my soapbox.
No, thank you, Tom. You always have really good information. We do appreciate that. Lauren, anything else you wanted to touch on before we move on?
Oh, so I was just going to remind everybody. So it's the Safety, Health, Welfare, and Equity. It's a mouthful. I've been calling it personally SHWE. That's what Tom was talking about. And that was a committee under the commission that was formed last year. We have quite a lot of Merion Village representation in it, which is fantastic. And I've been trying to participate on behalf of the MVA board as well. And yeah, Don was talking about, we talked a lot about zoning at the last meeting. Tom's also drafted a flyer, which I think was kind of Aaron Sink sent him, and then Tom's been kind of tweaking it, and it's really great as a flow chart for police alternatives. So rather than, this is a situation where I would normally call the police, is police involvement really necessary? What are other resources that we have in Central Ohio or the South Side? And then he was mentioning too, kind of area commissioner training, a list of videos and training videos for them to watch to kind of really impress upon them the importance of diversity, inclusion, like things, zoning related matters and other things like that. So yeah, that was just kind of a little update about the recent meeting we had.
Yep, and I just uploaded the flyer to the chat window. I'll say this is I am not a very visual arts person, so it's kind of my crappy first run at it. I'm going to probably work with the Neighborhood Design Center to try to, clean this up a little bit.
I think it's great.
Well, Tom, don't go anywhere because our next item here is area commission updates. So if you and Mike,
just before going back to the zoning, I saw that Lauren had posted that the church property did pass, and on a lighter note, they did commit to allowing us to tour the church before they demolished it. And I think there's several of us that are definitely very interested to see what the inside of that looks like. And not sure, Lauren, if that's something you could help us arrange or get us in contact with the developer to get that organized, but I know there's several people in the community that are actually really excited about getting to see the inside of that.
Yeah, actually, thanks for pointing that out. I meant to remind the association about that because I believe they brought it up again in one of the maybe the Southside Area Commission meeting. So yes, I will reach back out and follow up on that.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, and that was one that they did make some adjustments from what we voted on originally, not in terms of the overall density, but in some of the other things. So they did increase the setback that was a concern from the lot lines. That was a city staff comment, as well as I know a concern from some of the residents. So that did increase from the original MVA vote. They reordered and rearranged some of the units to get rid of the site triangle issues. That was the safety for turning concerns for the movements. So that did also change post this. And actually, they went to the zoning committee because we have a CSAC zoning committee, and I voted no at that time on those because they had not resolved those yet. So those are now resolved. So there have been a few tweaks to it from the original that everyone here saw. So that's kind of normal for how things proceed.
Thank you for that, Tom. Okay, well then in that case, Tom and Mike, if you guys have updates in addition to what you've already shared that you'd like to share tonight about the commission.
I haven't talked a lot here. Mike, do you want to go first?
Sure. As far as education, so I know I mentioned earlier that Columbus City Schools did return this week to their hybrid model of learning. Again, just encourage folks to check in with CCS, whether that's online or at your local school, about specific updates there. But all that information is available on their website. The facilities master planning process for the district, which is, as I'm sure some folks are aware, process to do some facilities planning, long-term facilities planning, deferred maintenance projects, things like that. But then also potentially things like school closings, school renovations, rebuilds. It's a master plan for the entire district and aligns with their ongoing strategic planning process. That process for 2021, the committee process will be starting, I believe, this month. I was invited by the Board of Education to serve as a co-chair for the Facilities Master Planning Committee for this round. And that'll be starting with a community feedback process kind of by region. And so our region, our area is part of Region 3. And so I'll be co-chairing the community feedback process for that. So I'll be sharing more information, updates as far as, how folks can connect with that process, provide feedback. A lot of it will probably be virtual, but hopefully there'll be quite a few different ways that people can connect. The other thing I wanted to mention, the youth seat for the area commission, we still have not officially received any applications for that. And just as a reminder, I think I mentioned a few months back when we originally shared that opportunity. It's a new seat on the area commission. It's open to anyone in the commission area under the age of 18 at the time of their appointment, who's resided here for at least 6 months, who would effectively represent youth and serve as a representative to youth on the commission. It's a full commission seat, so they would serve like any other commissioner for up to 3 years potentially. So we're definitely looking at high school age juniors and seniors primarily for that opportunity. And they would work closely with me, on the education committee, but would potentially have opportunities to work, on our other committees, public service, Tom's committee for safety, wealth, or safety, equity, welfare, and equity. Such a mouthful. And some of the other committee work that we do, as well as have opportunities to connect with city representatives, the mayor's office, city council, some of the other city departments. So it really does sort of function both as a kind of a quasi internship, but also a public service opportunity for youth. So all that being said, the application is linked on our current website, and I know we've shared it on our Facebook page as well. But if you know of a youth who might be interested in our area, please, send them our way. Have them drop me a line at education@columbussouthside.org. We certainly are actively looking and recruiting a commissioner. That's all I've got.
Our big planning meeting is going to be on the 6th, so we'll probably have more stuff to talk about after that. And that's our big yearly planning meeting. If you want to know kind of the boundaries of districts, there's kind of some new online outreach stuff that the commission's trying to do. So one of them is kind of a map of all the areas. So I'll link everyone to that. That's kind of a Google map of, obviously Merion Village, but also some of the other areas that are within the boundaries of the commission. And then you can see the other commissions as well. Let's see, we also have a new website that is being worked on right now. Not quite ready for full consumption yet, but it is getting built out as we speak. And I'll try to find the link to that here on the side. I'll grab it and stick it in the chat here after I finish talking. Oh no, here it is. So that's also getting worked on, trying to do a little more streamlined, put more information up, be a little bit easier to find information about the commission, about the votes that are taken, all the committees and their work that was going on. So yeah, that's kind of that one. Let's see. From a general city council perspective, there are two bigger things related to the public safety and then just general council. One is the Council Redistricting Commission, which received 123 applicants. That will be 5 people on that commission. I think they're down to 15 as the short list right now. And the intent there, a few years ago, we as a city passed a new kind of ordinance to change up how city council is made up to have district representation. So currently there is no city council person who lives on the south side. So the idea is that there would be a requirement that, basically the city council members have to live within districts and run for a district seat. They would be voted on citywide though. They would just have to come from that district in order to get a seat. It also added 2 seats to city council. So the thing with that though is you need to draw new maps to basically associate that and make sure that all the districts are within 1% of population, equally diverse, et cetera, respecting of all political and, physical boundaries like rivers, that sort of thing. So that is getting narrowed down now. Again, they're down to a short list of 15 that should be selected here in February. And then moving forward by the end of this year, we should be seeing the new city council seat representation maps. And that will have a public involvement process through it. The other one is the Civilian Review Board for police. And that received like 200 and some applications. They're still whittling that one down as far as I'm aware. So general overall city stuff going on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tom. And Mike as well. Oh, Mike, go ahead.
Sorry, and Tom, if I missed this, jump in, but did you talk about the annual planning meeting this Saturday?
Yeah, just that it's happening.
Yeah, I was going to say that is open to the public, and only having attended one, we could use more public input at those meetings. So I would greatly encourage folks to attend if possible. It is 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, but the commission, is connected with all the neighborhoods across the Southside area. And it's a great opportunity to plug in a little bit more broadly beyond Merion Village and potentially help shape some of those priorities and initiatives. So certainly would love to hear feedback, if nothing else, from folks about priorities for 2021, but please feel free to join us.
All right, awesome. Thanks to you both for sharing. Let's see here. So I just want to touch on a couple of events. Obviously, the Area Commission has a monthly meeting, so we have that on the agenda here just to remind folks. Those are being held virtually. Those are on is it the 4th Tuesday each month, I believe? the
Yes.
commission? Okay, fourth Tuesday. So that'll be the 23rd of this month. Also, I'm going to post a link here in chat. Coming up on the 13th is the annual Ganther's Place House Sweet It Is event. This is their 11th annual. We have been participating as Merion Village in this event for the last, I think, 5 or 6 years. And this is an event that brings together civics from all throughout the South Side, other nonprofit organizations. There have been some small businesses involved. In fact, it's typically hosted at a small business, or a business rather, in the South Side, normally on Parsons. And it also highlights the Healthy Homes program through Nationwide Children's Hospital. And they typically do a house tour during this. So the event will be held this year. However, it will look a bit different. It will be a virtual event. There is an in-person component that will happen at community grounds, but if you are interested in attending in person, you do need to pre-register for a specific time. They're doing a lot to make sure to keep everyone safe, including the folks that are running the event. So I did share the link there for the Facebook event where you can get all of the information. It's always a lot of fun. They're a great group of people. We will be participating in this event again this year virtually, and we will also be making a donation to help with the event costs. They typically do try to raise funds at the event as well for the annual Ganther's Place community Easter egg hunt. It's unlikely that that will happen in its typical form this year, but many of you may remember that last year they did a socially distanced Easter egg hunt where people put up photos of Easter eggs that they colored throughout the entire South Side, and people could drive or walk around to see them. So that was pretty cool. Hoping to see something like that again this year. But we're excited to be participating again, and hope that everyone else will participate as well. If you've never attended, this is a great opportunity to do so virtually and just see what it's all about. It's really a great event that brings everyone in the South Side together. So we hope to see some faces. I will open the floor for general comments and questions, but first I want to allow Sam from Franklin County to jump in. He emailed me just before the meeting and has some information he'd like to share. Sam?
Nope. Am I still on mute? Oh, there we go. Right? Okay. Hey, so my name's Sam. I'm with the Franklin County Auditor's Office. I just had a quick couple updates for y'all. We finished our review, or our triennial review of property values that the state makes us do every 3 years. This is the kind of the halfway point of the full 6-year appraisal process. So the full 6 years, which is again not this one, that one usually will have the appraisers going around the neighborhoods and actually checking out people's houses. This one was more of a data overlay that the state laid out for us. It's taking into account all of the new development data that we've gotten over the course of the last 3 years, which it's given that this is Columbus, one of the fastest growing markets in the country, ended up being a pretty huge undertaking. We're looking at just massive jumps in demand, massive jumps in, which ends up leading to massive jumps in property values. So we've seen over the last 3 years, the average was it was about 20% increase, depending whether you're residential, commercial. I think commercial ended up being a little lower, but it did still go up. This was a kind of a crazy year to do it, of course, especially now that we had to overlay these new values with the taxes, and I'm sure a lot of you saw the tax bills were delayed, and so we're trying to make sure that everything, the tax bill, the deadline was extended, so we're trying to make sure that everything is still functioning as best as it can. But man, we've had a heck of a time dealing with the postal service, and I was just talking to one of our public information guys today, and we're starting to push to really recommend if you have your tax bill in, send it in. The mail service has been It's been slow. They're working hard. They got a lot to handle, but we're just trying to get out the word that take that into account. And then if you have any questions, give us a call. 614-525-HOME, the easiest way to remember it. But I'll also send around my contact information as well, so you guys can get a hold of me. But I'll send around a packet of information with some more details on all of this. I did want to just flag, let's see, we're doing a legal aid workshop with the Legal Aid Society of Columbus. If you got a new property value and you're not happy with it, and you have your neighbors are selling for they're selling comparable homes for different prices, or there's been either flooding damage. We hear it all. If you have a reason to think that the value that we have listed on our website should be changed, let us know. We need to know that. We are also trying to really focus on accessibility and making it at the very least less of an intimidating process. So like I mentioned, we're working with Legal Aid of Columbus. You don't need a lawyer to file that. But we do have our normal Board of Revisions process, and the Board of Revisions can be a little intimidating. So that's why we're working with Legal Aid Society, is just to make sure that if you have any outstanding questions that you can get them answered. We're dealing with the Ohio Revised Code here in a lot of cases, or sometimes zoning code or whatever. It's complex, we get it. So we're working with Legal Aid to try and help people with that, and so I'll send details along with that as well. And then e-filing. We can e-file with the Board of Revisions now, which for us has been a huge undertaking, but just pushing along with that accessibility piece, especially during the pandemic. We want to make sure we're keeping people safe, and also just making it as easy to work with us as possible. That being said, as members of our community, let us know how we can be more accessible. We're trying to have those dialogues, and that's why I'm here. So that being said, I'm happy to take any questions if you got them. And like I said, I'll pass along some more details afterwards.
Allison, your hand is up. Did I miss you for something else, or did you have a question about this?
It was right before you said Sam, so
okay,
no,
I'll come back to you.
I'm for next. Yeah, that's okay.
Tom?
I was just going to say, I did go through this process here earlier or late last year with the informal review process, and it was very, very easy. So do appreciate that. Now, are you still in the informal review process, or does it need to be through the formal board now?
So now it's through the formal board. The informal review was that was what we were doing last year over several weeks to try and kind of get a lot of those big issues out of the way, as in an easy informal setting. So now it is the more formal board process, but what Franklin County has done, and we're actually the first county to really do this in the state, is if you have a change that you'd like to submit with the Board of Revisions under $50,000, you can sit down with with our mediation team now. They are it's a new program that those smaller changes, especially the non-commercial ones, where it's just easier to just have a dialogue. So we'll have a representative from the Board of Revisions. We'll have a neutral third party mediating the discussion, and the idea is really just to, again, make it as accessible and non-threatening as possible. And like I said, don't need a lawyer, but if you are doing things for multiple properties, let's say you're a realtor or like a landlord, it's very often a good idea to go with a lawyer, and then you wouldn't be able to go through that mediation process. That would be the official board. But most residentials are asking for changes of under $50,000.
Yeah, thank you. I think I know 5 or 6 people who went through the informal review process, and I found it pretty easy, and hopefully others did as well. So.
Yeah, we did as well. Actually, Allison helped us kind of know what our property was worth because we didn't really understand, because we have a totally non-updated property and we're like, well, this can't be right. So it was a great process, but I do appreciate you sharing with folks, what the process is now and how they can get information, because I think a lot of us were very concerned and confused and not really sure where to go.
Yeah, I get it, and that's why we're really pushing the accessibility piece now. And yeah, that was one of the pieces that we had a heck of a time trying to get off the ground virtually for the first time ever. Those were all like, we wanted to initially, like, we were going to have a whole big community event. There would be several offices where you could come do it in person and all of that, food trucks, all kinds of fun stuff, but like most of what happened during the COVID world, it just didn't really work out that way. So I'm glad to hear it went well for you guys. But yeah, we're keeping on the accessibility piece and are hoping to implement some more of those changes soon.
Thank you. Allison, did you have something? You just put your hand back up.
I was just going to say, yeah, I've helped a couple people with understanding the values and the changes. So if you would like, I'd be happy to pull numbers for you so you can get a better idea of the value of your home. I can put my contact info in the chat.
Thank you for that. Okay, well, great. Thank you so much, Sam. This is really, really helpful. And if you do send any information to that email address we were communicating through earlier, we'll definitely make sure we share that with folks.
Cool. Yeah, and I was just realizing that I had sent it through my personal Gmail, so you'll get it from my address. So
understand. I've done it myself. Thank
right,
you again
cool.
for being here tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. We'll see you around.
All right, so we'll open the floor here in just a moment. Before I do, Nancy, I see you're on the line. Do you have anything you'd like to share with us tonight? Maybe. Not sure if Nancy's still with us or not. Okay, we'll come back. Anyone have anything they'd like to discuss on open floor? Allison, you had your hand up earlier.
I did, yes.
I'm back, so I'll wait.
Sorry, go ahead, Nancy. Go ahead, Nancy.
I am just so pleased to always be here when I can. Wanted to remind everybody that the Reimagining Public Safety different forums were hosted by different council members, and they're all in archive. And normally I watch a little bit of each one, but I have been glued to my seat for all of them. So I would highly recommend that you review those if you haven't already seen them. And the other thing is we have a council meeting Monday, and begins at 5. It's virtual. And so you can go on Facebook Live, on YouTube, or the City Council channel, or Government TV, CTV. So that's everything I've got. Everybody knows how to get a hold of me. So please let me know if there's anything I can do to be helpful. And that's all I've got tonight.
You are always helpful, Nancy. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, Allison, it is your turn.
All right, thanks. So I mentioned this last month or the month before, I can't remember, but for a couple years now, we've been looking to start a story time at Walker Park to try to get some younger neighbors involved and give them something to do in the neighborhood. So Walker Park, if you're not familiar, is 241 East Morrill. It's on the corner of Bruck and Morrill. And that is a community park that the association helps support, and I help lead that effort and have for the last several years. And I've followed a very long number of huge impactors helping with that space. So if you haven't noticed it before, please take a look. The other thing I just wanted to second Jessica's thing about how sweet it is. I always participate in that as well. It's a great time, and I know it's going to be a little bit different, but if you have time to go in and you feel safe, make sure you schedule time to go in there and check out their event on Facebook. And then one more thing is Mike has put together or shared a calendar of times that the Southwood Elementary School is welcoming neighbors to come stand outside the school and cheer on the students as they enter. So we have 3 more times for that, which are Thursday the 4th tomorrow at 8:25, Monday the 8th at 8:25, and Thursday the 11th at 8:25. So I think the goal is to just cheer them on as they come in and, you know, stop by your favorite coffee shop. We have a number of them in the neighborhood, and get something warm to drink and come over and cheer the kids on.
Allison, question in chat from Eric. Are you looking for volunteers to do the reading?
Yes, sorry, I sidetracked from that. Yes, we do. So I have the first one that I'd like to schedule is a friend of mine. I went to college with her. She just wrote a book, so I'd like her to come out and read that to the kids. And then the goal is I'll donate a couple of books or whatever to give them away to kids that come. And then, yeah, if you know anybody that would like to read, you don't have to be an author. You don't have to be any type of character, just somebody that is willing to volunteer their time. I don't know what the format is going to look like yet. I think it kind of will depend on the involvement that we get from the neighborhood. But we get a handful of kids while we're over there working in the park who like to come and get books or talk to us and stand by. So, you know, I don't know if it'll be like a bi-weekly thing or a once a month thing. But yeah, if you're interested, love for you to bring your favorite book and read it to the kids.
What's your current goal? I know you want to figure out interest first, but if you had an ideal goal of when this would start, when would that be?
So the goal is for it to start. I don't have anything down on paper yet, but I would like it to start like maybe after Easter. When is Easter? I think it's the 20 something or other.
Hard to keep track of holidays that change every year.
Right, right. So something around there, maybe like the middle of April, I think is probably a good goal.
Awesome. Well, definitely, we'll continue to make sure this is talked about at our next meeting, certainly in March. And, you know, we can definitely share some stuff on social if you want to. We could do a blog post about it, whatever you think makes the most sense to get the word out, because this is a great idea, and I'd love to see folks get involved.
Yeah, I'll get something on paper the next 2 weeks and shoot it over to you guys. Cool. That way we have something that we can look at.
Perfect. Anne has her hand raised. Anne, do you have a question for Allison?
Yes, so my one question was already asked and answered regarding volunteers, so sign me up for that, Allison. And the second thing I thought maybe you might want to do is partner with Parsons Library. They're going to have in the summer a kickoff for their reading program for summer. And I happen to know somebody who is on this meeting who also works very, very closely with the Columbus Metropolitan Library. So I just think this is a wonderful idea to bring literature to children in an open air fashion. And it could just really make a lot of really good experiences for our community.
Allison, let's catch up offline.
Sure, we can do that. Thanks, Ann.
I have a couple caveats to that, but generally speaking, I want to fully endorse that idea.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mike.
Eric, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to echo what Ann said. I will volunteer. I do funny voices, so you know, I can help out there. The other piece I would add is we could also potentially partner with the association to either donate some books or do a book drive.
Yeah.
To be able to support, you know, handing out the books to the students. So I'm actually I just got really excited about this idea. I think it has a lot of legs on it. So definitely loop me in. Glad to help.
Great, thanks. We'll do.
Awesome. Okay, well, the floor is open. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share before we wrap up this evening? Mike?
Yes, I do, and my raise hand feature is not working.
I saw you. You're good.
Southside Stay is hosting our annual pre-K information event. Normally, we would do that right around this time of year, kind of just ahead of the Columbus City Schools pre-K registration process kickoff. But we would normally hold it at a Columbus City school, one of our Southside pathway schools, but it's virtual this year. So if you go to facebook.com/Southside Stay. There's an event link posted there. I also shared it on Nextdoor if you go to the calendar. So it's next Wednesday, the 10th. It starts at 7 p.m. It's a free event. Columbus City Schools Early Childhood Education Department will be kind of facilitating that, sharing information about the early childhood education programs in the district kind of writ large, talking about, getting ready for pre-K programming, getting ready for kindergarten, and then making that transition to, first grade and beyond, and just all the benefits and the importance of that time for young children and education. We'll spotlight a couple things with Southside Pathway Schools in particular. Shout out a couple of our favorite pre-K educators, and may even get a couple to join us. And we'll also be raffling off 2 kindergarten readiness kits that evening, if that's an enticement for anybody. So I can drop the link here in the chat if we're going to be around for a little bit longer. But like I said, that's on our Facebook page, and strongly encourage anybody with an interest in pre-K education or who is considering pre-K education for their kiddos.
Very cool. Thank you, Mike. I just want to make a note here. Christian, you're still here, I think. I'm not sure if you saw this, but there was just a suggestion that came through in chat, wondering if we could add little free libraries to a neighborhood beautification effort. So that's a pretty cool idea. I know we have a couple. I think they're privately maintained currently, either at homes, or is there one in the Pocket Park, Allison, currently? There is. Okay, I thought there was, but I wasn't sure.
Yes, there is one.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That came from Lauren Cardoni, so that's potentially a very cool idea. Okay, anyone else have anything they'd like to share before we wrap up this evening? No? Okay, well then in that case, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Another great meeting. Looking forward to talking to everyone next month. And until then, remember to renew your membership. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jess.